Daniel Carter sat on the rocky beach, throwing stones into the ocean. He was 10 years old and bored. His mother worked at the government facility up the hill, the one with all the fences and guards. She said important people from space were visiting Earth. Daniel did not care much about that. He just wanted someone to play with. The sun was setting when he heard a noise in the trees behind him. Daniel turned around and froze. A girl stood there. But she was not human. Her skin had a soft blue tone, and her eyes were large and golden. She wore strange clothes that shimmered in the fading light. She looked scared. Daniel should have run. He should have called for help. Instead, he smiled and waved. The girl tilted her head, watching him carefully. She took one step forward, then another. Daniel stayed very still, like when he tried to get close to wild rabbits in his backyard. The girl pointed at the ocean and made a sound. It was not English. Daniel shook his head and pointed at himself. "Daniel," he said clearly. The girl blinked, then pointed at herself. "Kira Lynn," she said, her voice soft and musical. That was how it started. Over the next few weeks, Kira Lynn kept sneaking away from the government compound to meet Daniel by the beach. Her father was the Valerian ambassador. She tried to explain through gestures and drawings in the sand. The Valerians had just made contact with Earth. Everything was new and strange to her. Daniel showed her how to skip stones across the water. She laughed when she finally made one bounce 3 times. He taught her to catch fireflies in glass jars, then let them go. She showed him how to read the stars in ways humans had never imagined. They could not talk much with words, but they understood each other anyway. Kira Lynn was fascinated by everything on Earth. She had never seen an ocean before. Her planet had great lakes, she tried to explain, but nothing like this endless water. She touched tree bark with wonder, collected shells like they were precious gems, and jumped in puddles after rain just to feel the splash. Daniel learned about her too. She had no brothers or sisters. Her mother had died when she was very young. Her father was kind but always busy with important work. She was lonely. Just like him. They were the same where it mattered. One afternoon, Daniel brought her to his secret place in the woods. It was a small clearing where sunlight came through the trees in golden beams. Kira Lynn sat down on the soft grass and smiled. This became their spot, the place where they met almost every day. Daniel started teaching her English words. Tree, sky, friend. Kira Lynn taught him words in her language too. Though his human mouth struggled with the sounds, they laughed at his mistakes, and she would gently correct him, patient and kind. One day, Daniel brought his old camera. He wanted to remember this. Kira Lynn was nervous about photos, but Daniel promised to keep it secret. They took one picture together by the ocean, both of them grinning at the camera. Daniel kept that photo in his pocket. Kira Lynn told him about space through drawings and the few English words she knew. There were thousands of different species out there. Some were friendly, some were not. The Valerians were peaceful, she explained. They did not like war. They believed in talking, in making friends, in finding peace. Daniel made her a gift. He collected shells from the beach, the prettiest ones he could find. He used fishing line and cord to string them together into a bracelet. It was rough and simple, made by a child's hands. But he worked hard on it. When he gave it to Kira Lynn, her golden eyes went wide. She put it on immediately and hugged him tight. She wore that bracelet every time they met after that. Sometimes, she would touch it and smile, like it was the most valuable thing she owned. But good things do not last forever. One evening, Kira Lynn was climbing a tree with Daniel when she slipped. She fell hard and hurt her arm. She tried not to cry, but Daniel could see the pain in her face. He knew he had to get help, even if it meant their secret would come out. Daniel ran all the way to the compound, shouting for help. The guards nearly shot him before they realized he was human. He led them back to Kira Lynn, and they rushed her to their medical station. Daniel waited outside, scared and worried. Ambassador Thelvar came to see Daniel that night. He was tall, with the same blue skin as his daughter, but his eyes were ancient and wise. Daniel thought he would be angry. Instead, the ambassador knelt down to Daniel's level. "You saved my daughter," Thelvar said in perfect English. "You could have left her there, afraid to reveal your meetings. But you chose her safety over your own fear. That is true friendship." Daniel felt relief flood through him. "Is she okay?" "She will heal," Thelvar said gently. "But Daniel, we must return home soon. Our time on Earth is ending. Kira Lin will have to say goodbye." Daniel felt his heart break a little. He had known this day might come, but he had hoped it was far away. They let him see her one more time. Kira Lin sat in her room at the compound, her arm bandaged but healing. When she saw Daniel, she ran to him and hugged him with her good arm. They sat together, not saying much, just being close. "I will remember you," Kira Lin said in careful English. She had been practicing. "Always remember. You are my friend." "I will remember too," Daniel promised. "Always." The day they left, Daniel went to the beach alone. He watched the Valerian ship rise into the sky, a bright point of light that grew smaller and smaller until it vanished among the stars. He touched his pocket where he kept their photo. Kira Lin was up there somewhere, going home to a world he would never see. He did not know that she was looking down at Earth through the ship's window, tears running down her blue cheeks, touching the shell bracelet on her wrist. 20 years would pass before they saw each other again. 20 years of growing up, of war, of becoming different people. But that afternoon by the ocean, two children had built something stronger than either of them knew. They had built a bridge between worlds, one friendship at a time. Captain Daniel Carter stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force ship Valiant, watching the stars streak past. 20 years had changed him. The boy who played on beaches was gone, replaced by a soldier with sharp eyes and a reputation for impossible victories. He was 30 years old now, decorated with medals he never wore, and known throughout the fleet as someone who could think his way out of any situation. "Captain, we are approaching the Valerian system," his second officer, Commander Lisa Hammond, reported. She was efficient and steady, exactly the kind of officer Daniel trusted. "Take us out of faster-than-light travel," Daniel ordered. "Let them know we are here to help." The war had started 6 months ago. The Kreth Dominion, a brutal empire from the far side of the galaxy, had begun attacking Valerian colonies. The Kreth were powerful, with weapons that could crack planets and shields that seemed impossible to break. They believed in conquest and domination. Every species they met either joined them or died. The Valerians had tried to fight back, but they were losing. Their peaceful nature meant they were not ready for a war like this. Colonies fell, one after another. Millions of Valerians fled their homes, trying to reach safety. The Galactic Council debated and argued, but no one wanted to fight the Kreth, except Earth. When the Valerian Empire asked for help, most galactic powers laughed. Earth was young, barely 200 years into space travel. Humans were newcomers, untested in real war. The other species remembered that the Valerians had been one of the first to welcome Earth into the galactic community, but they thought sending human forces was a waste of time. Earth remembered too. Earth remembered who had been kind when they were new and lost. The United Defense Force volunteered 3 battle groups. It was not much compared to galactic standards, but it was everything Earth could spare. Daniel had volunteered immediately. He did not tell anyone why, but deep in his quarters, he kept an old photograph of a human boy and a blue-skinned alien girl standing by an ocean. He had never forgotten Kira Lin. He did not know if she was even alive, but her people needed help. That was enough. The Valiant dropped into normal space near the Valerian homeworld. The planet was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents, cities that sparkled like jewels. But it was surrounded by defense stations and warships, ready for attack. "We are being hailed," Lisa said. A Valerian military officer appeared on the screen. He looked exhausted. "Earth ship. This is General Vorthok of the Valerian Defense Fleet. We received word you were coming, but I must be honest. I do not know what you can do against the Kreth. They are too strong. General, let us worry about what we can do, Daniel said calmly. Where do you need us most? Vorthok shared the tactical situation. It was worse than Daniel had thought. The Kreth were pushing toward the core Valerian systems. 3 colony worlds had already been destroyed completely. Refugee ships crowded the space lanes, desperately trying to evacuate. The Kreth did not take prisoners. They just killed. They will attack the Polara colony next, Vorthok said. We have civilians there, nearly 2 million. We cannot evacuate them in time. Then we go to Polara, Daniel decided. How many ships can you spare to come with us? Quote, Captain, you have 5 ships, Vorthok said carefully. The Kreth will send at least 30. This is suicide. You let me handle the Kreth, General. Just get those civilians moving. The Valiant and its small battle group jumped to Polara. Daniel spent the trip studying everything they knew about Kreth tactics. The Kreth relied on overwhelming firepower and heavy shields. They attacked in straight lines, using their superior weapons to smash through defenses. Every battle report showed the same pattern. They were powerful, but predictable. Predictable meant beatable. When they arrived at Polara, the evacuation was chaos. Civilian ships launched from the planet's surface, while Valerian warships tried to form a defensive perimeter. Then the Kreth arrived, their dark ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel like sharks smelling blood. All ships. This is Captain Carter. Daniel broadcast to the small fleet. Do not engage them head-on. Fall back to the asteroid field near the 4th planet. Make them chase us. The Kreth commander, war leader Krell, watched the human ships retreat and laughed. Humans were cowards, just like he had heard. He ordered his fleet to pursue and destroy them. The asteroid field was dense and dangerous. The Kreth ships were large and heavily armored, built for open space combat. They moved slowly through the floating rocks. That was exactly what Daniel wanted. Now, he ordered, the human ships had been hiding in the asteroids, powered down and invisible. They lit up their engines and attacked from every direction at once. Human weapons were weaker than Kreth weapons, but they were faster and more precise. The humans aimed for sensors, for engine ports, for communications arrays. They did not try to destroy the Kreth ships. They just blinded them and crippled them. The Kreth fleet suddenly found itself unable to coordinate. Ships crashed into asteroids. Their powerful weapons hit their own allies instead of the humans. Krell screamed orders, but his communications were jammed. The humans darted in and out like insects, too fast to hit, always attacking from unexpected angles. In 30 minutes, Daniel's 5 ships had disabled 15 Kreth vessels. The rest retreated, confused and angry. But Daniel was not done. While the Kreth regrouped, the Valerian evacuation ships made it to safety. Every single civilian got away. The Kreth had failed completely. News of the battle spread fast. The galactic community was shocked. Humans had actually defeated the Kreth, using tactics no one had ever seen before. The Kreth were humiliated and furious. They sent more ships, bigger fleets, determined to crush these upstart humans. Over the next 3 months, Daniel fought 17 more battles. He won 14 of them. The ones he lost, he still managed to save civilians and retreat with minimal casualties. The Kreth could not understand it. Their weapons were superior, their ships were stronger, but the humans kept winning. Daniel became known as the Ghost Commander. He appeared where the Kreth did not expect him. He used debris fields, planets' gravity wells, nebulae, anything he could find, to even the odds. He fought like someone who had grown up on a world where everything was trying to kill you, where you learned to be smart because you could not be strong. Earth was a death world by galactic standards. High gravity, dangerous weather, aggressive wildlife, diseases that could kill in hours. Humans had evolved to survive that. They brought that same ruthless adaptability to war. Meanwhile, on the Valerian homeworld, Princess Kira Lin worked in the diplomatic corps. She coordinated refugee relief, managed supply lines, and tried to keep hope alive. She heard reports of the human forces, of the mysterious captain who kept saving Valarian lives. Something about the reports felt familiar. The way the human commander always prioritized civilian safety over military victory. The way he took incredible risks to protect the innocent. It reminded her of someone, but the memory was 20 years old and faded. She touched the shell bracelet on her wrist, hidden under her formal robes. She wore it always, even though it was worn and old. It reminded her that friendship could cross impossible distances, that kindness mattered, that somewhere, a human boy had once cared about a lonely alien girl. She did not know that same boy was now a man, fighting a war to protect her people. She did not know he kept her photograph in his quarters, looking at it before every battle, but she would learn soon. The war was building toward a final confrontation, and fate was pulling them back together across the stars. The Kreth Dominion was done playing games. Supreme War Master Krell assembled the largest fleet in Kreth history, over 300 warships, and pointed them directly at the Valarian homeworld. This time there would be no tricks, no clever tactics, just overwhelming force. They would crush the Valarians and their human allies through sheer power. Intelligence reports reached the Valarian High Command. Daniel stood in the war room with General Vorthok and a dozen other commanders, staring at the display. 300 ships. The entire combined Valarian and human fleet numbered only 80. "We cannot win this," Vorthok said quietly. "We should evacuate the government and as many civilians as possible." "No," Daniel said. Everyone turned to look at him. "If we run now, the Kreth will hunt down every refugee ship. They will never stop. We end this here." "Captain Carter, I admire your courage," an older Valarian admiral said. "But courage does not defeat superior numbers. We are outnumbered 4-1. Daniel walked to the tactical display and started marking positions. "We do not fight them in open space. We use the planet itself. The Kreth have to come to us. That gives us the advantage." "What advantage?" Vorthok asked. "They are arrogant," Daniel said. "They think they have already won. They will come in fast and hard, expecting us to break. But we will not break. We will make them bleed for every meter." Daniel outlined his plan. It was insane. It required perfect timing and incredible risk. It meant putting human and Valarian ships in positions where they might not be able to retreat, but it was the only chance they had. The commanders argued for an hour. Finally, Vorthok stood up. "The human speaks truth. If we run, we die slowly. If we fight, we might die quickly, but we might also win. I say we fight." One by one, the other commanders agreed. They would make their stand at the homeworld. Princess Kirillin was not in the war room, but she heard the decision. All non-essential personnel were being evacuated to command stations in orbit. She refused to go. She was part of the diplomatic corps. Her job was to help coordinate civilian evacuations and relief efforts. She would not abandon that duty. Her father, Ambassador Thelvar, now old and tired, tried to convince her to leave. "Kirillin, please, if the battle goes badly, you must survive." "If the battle goes badly, father, nowhere will be safe," she said gently. "I stay." The Kreth fleet arrived like a dark storm. Their ships blotted out the stars, weapons charging, shields at maximum. War Master Krell stood on his command ship's bridge, savoring his victory. Today the upstart humans would learn their place. Today the Valarians would fall. The human and Valarian fleet waited in orbit around the homeworld. They looked small and fragile compared to the Kreth armada. Krell smiled and gave the order to attack. The Kreth fleet surged forward in a massive wall of ships. That was when Daniel sprang his trap. Hundreds of old satellites and orbital platforms that had looked like debris suddenly lit up. They were not weapons platforms. They were giant mirrors and reflectors, positioned perfectly to bounce the system's sun directly into the Kreth sensors. The Kreth fleet was momentarily blinded. Their sensors screamed with false readings. In that moment of confusion, the human and Valarian ships attacked from above and below. coming from the planet's shadow where they had been hiding. Human ships were smaller and faster. They carried missiles that swarmed like angry insects. Valerian ships had powerful energy shields and precise beam weapons. Together, they hit the Kreeth formation from angles the enemy did not expect. The battle turned into chaos. The Kreeth tried to regroup, but Daniel kept changing tactics. He would mass his forces at one point, then scatter them somewhere else. He used the planet's orbital defense stations, old and outdated by galactic standards, but still deadly at close range. War Master Krell was furious. This was not how battles were supposed to work. The humans fought without honor, using tricks and deception. But his ships were dying, and he could not stop it. Then the Kreeth commander made a cruel decision. If he could not win militarily, he would force the humans to surrender. He sent a strike force toward the evacuation transports fleeing the planet. Thousands of civilian ships, carrying families and children, trying to reach safety. Daniel saw it happening. If he moved to defend the transports, he would expose his fleet to the main Kreeth force. If he did not, millions of innocents would die. He did not hesitate. All ships, break off and protect the evacuation fleet, he ordered. Captain, that will leave our formation exposed, Lisa said. I know, Daniel said quietly. Do it anyway. The human ships raced toward the evacuation zone. The Kreeth main fleet immediately pressed the attack, smashing into the Valerian defensive line. Valerian ships started taking heavy damage, but they held their position, buying time for the humans to save the civilians. Daniel's ship, the Valiant, put itself between the Kreeth strike force and a massive transport carrying 50,000 Valerian refugees. Kreeth weapons hammered the Valiant's shields. Alarms screamed across the bridge. Hull breaches opened on 3 decks. Shields at 20%, Lisa reported, her voice tight with stress. Hold position, Daniel ordered. Behind them, the transport was moving away, its engines struggling to reach faster than light speed. A Kreeth destroyer focused all its fire on the Valiant. The human ship shuddered under the assault. The main reactor started failing. They were dying. But the transport was almost safe. Captain, we have to retreat, Lisa said. Not yet, Daniel said, gripping his command chair. The transport finally jumped to safety. In the same moment, 3 other human ships arrived, their missiles destroying the Kreeth destroyer. The Valiant limped away from the battle line, heavily damaged but alive. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human ships threw themselves into impossible positions to protect Valerian civilians. They took damage that should have destroyed them, but they kept fighting. It was not about tactics anymore. It was about refusing to let innocents die. The Valerians saw this. General Vorthok, watching from his command ship, felt something break inside him. These humans, these newcomers to the galaxy, were dying to save his people. They were showing a courage and selflessness he had rarely seen. All Valerian ships, Vorthok broadcast. The humans fight for us. We will not let them fight alone. Attack formation. Follow me. The entire Valerian fleet charged forward, their fear replaced by determination. They might die today, but they would die protecting those who had protected them. War Master Krell realized too late that he had lost control of the battle. His ships were scattered, his formations broken. The humans and Valerians were fighting like cornered animals. With desperation and fury, his casualties were mounting. Then Daniel made his final move. While the Kreeth were focused on the planet, he had been quietly moving a small strike force into position. Now those ships, loaded with the last of humanity's heavy ordnance, appeared right behind the Kreeth command ship. The missiles hit before Krell could react. The command ship's shields failed. The next volley tore into its engines and bridge. War Master Krell died in the explosion, along with his senior staff. Without their leader, the Kreeth fleet started to break apart. Some ships retreated immediately. Others tried to continue fighting, but lacked coordination. The humans and Valerians pressed their advantage, and the Kreeth retreat turned into a rout. By the end of the day, the Kreeth Dominion had lost over half their fleet. The rest fled to their own territory and did not return. The war was over. Princess Kiralyn stood in the command station, watching the battle reports. The human captain's ship had nearly been destroyed, protecting a civilian transport. She pulled up the tactical recording, watching the Valiant take hit after hit while the transport escaped. Something in that action, that willingness to sacrifice for others, touched something deep in her memory. She thought of a young boy who had run for help when she was hurt, even though it meant revealing their secret friendship. She thought of someone who put others before himself. She looked at the shell bracelet on her wrist and wondered, down on the planet, the celebration was beginning. But Daniel sat in his damaged ship, exhausted and hurt. They had won, but the cost had been high. Good people had died today. He thought about Kira Lin, wherever she was, and hoped the victory had kept her safe. The grand hall of the Valerian Imperial Palace had never been so crowded. Beings from across the galaxy had come to witness the peace ceremony. The Kreth Dominion had sued for peace after their devastating defeat, and today marked the official end of the war. But more importantly, today honored the warriors who had saved the Valerian people. Princess Kira Lin stood near the Emperor's platform, wearing formal robes that marked her status. She was 30 years old now, a respected diplomat who had spent the war helping refugees and coordinating relief efforts. Her father, Ambassador Thelvar, stood nearby, older and slower but still proud. The human delegation arrives soon, the Emperor's aide announced. You will greet them formally, Princess. Kira Lin nodded. She had done this hundreds of times. Formal greetings were part of her job. But today felt different. Today, she would meet the human commander who had saved her world. She had studied his service record. Captain Daniel Carter, age 30, from Earth's North American continent. Decorated 17 times for valor, known for unconventional tactics and an unusual willingness to risk his own life for others. The reports mentioned his crew's loyalty and his tendency to put himself in the most dangerous positions. Something about that pattern nagged at her. She had spent days analyzing his tactical decisions. There was something familiar in the way he thought, the way he prioritized lives over military objectives, but she could not place why it felt familiar. The human delegation entered the hall. There were perhaps 20 of them, officers and diplomats in their dark blue uniforms. They looked tired. The war had cost Earth heavily too. These people had come from across the galaxy to help strangers, and many had not returned home. Kira Lin scanned the group for Captain Carter. There, in the center, walking with a slight limp. He was tall for a human. With dark hair cut short in military fashion, his face was lean and weathered, marked by stress and lack of sleep. He had a scar along his jaw that looked recent. His uniform was clean but old, worn from use. Their eyes met across the hall. His were dark brown, almost black. There was intelligence there, and sadness. And something else. A weight. The weight of command and hard decisions. Kira Lin felt her breath catch. There was something in those eyes. The formal ceremony began. The Emperor gave a speech thanking Earth for its assistance. The human ambassador responded with diplomatic grace. Then came the presentation of honors. One by one, human officers stepped forward to receive medals and recognition. Finally, Captain Daniel Carter was called. He walked to the platform, his limp barely noticeable. Up close, Kira Lin could see more details. His hands had scars. His uniform had been repaired multiple times. He wore no decorations except his rank insignia. The Emperor himself placed the Star of Valara around Daniel's neck, the highest honor the Empire could give. Daniel bowed respectfully, his expression neutral and professional. Then it was Kira Lin's turn to speak. She stepped forward with the formal words of gratitude, thanking him on behalf of the Valerian people. Daniel listened quietly, his face showing nothing, but as she spoke, something slipped from his uniform pocket. A small object fell to the marble floor with a soft sound. Daniel's hand moved to catch it, but he was too late. Kira Lin saw what it was. A photograph. Old and worn. The colors faded. She should have let it go. It was not proper to acknowledge such things in a formal ceremony, but her body moved before her mind could stop it. She knelt and picked up the photograph. Her world stopped. The photo showed a beach. An ocean. Two children standing together, smiling at the camera. A human boy with dark hair and a wide grin. A Valerian girl with golden eyes and a shell bracelet on her wrist. The bracelet. Kiralin's hand went to her own wrist, where that same bracelet rested under her formal robes. 20 years old. The shells worn smooth. The cord replaced many times, but the original pattern maintained. She wore it always, her most treasured possession. She looked up at Daniel. He was staring at her. And for the first time, his professional mask had cracked. In his eyes was recognition, and hope, and fear. "You kept it," Kirilin whispered in English, holding the photograph. "I never forgot," Daniel said, his voice rough. The formal ceremony dissolved around them. The Emperor was saying something, but neither of them heard. Kirilin's hands were shaking. She pulled back her robe sleeve, revealing the shell bracelet. Daniel made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. He reached out, then stopped, uncertain. Kirilin closed the distance and took his hand. His skin was warm, scarred from battle, but the touch was familiar in a way that defied time. "It is you," she said. "The boy from the beach. You are him. You are the princess," Daniel said. "You are her. I looked for reports about you during the war. I needed to know you were safe." "The Ghost Commander," Kirilin said, understanding flooding through her. "The one who always protected civilians first. The one who took impossible risks to save others. That was you looking for me and every refugee. I could not let them die," Daniel said. "Every time I saw a Valerian evacuation ship, I saw you. I saw the girl who taught me the stars had names I could not pronounce. I could not let them die." The Emperor cleared his throat gently. The entire hall was watching them now. Kirilin realized they were still standing in the middle of the formal ceremony, holding hands, tears on both their faces. "Forgive me, Your Majesty," she said, stepping back but not letting go of Daniel's hand. The Emperor, however, was smiling. He was old and had seen much. "There is nothing to forgive, Princess. It seems there is more history here than we knew." Ambassador Thelvar stepped forward, his aged eyes studying Daniel. Then recognition dawned on his face too. "The boy from Earth," he said slowly. "The one who saved my daughter when she fell. You became this?" "Sir," Daniel said, the respect automatic. "I did what I could." Thelvar laughed, a sound of pure joy. "What you could? You saved millions. You won a war. And all because of a friendship formed by children on a beach." The ceremony continued. But it had changed. The formal speeches were shorter. The recognition of the human forces was warmer, more personal. When it ended, Kirilin asked Daniel to walk with her. They went to a private garden in the palace, away from the crowds. For a long time, they just sat together in silence, processing the impossible. "I thought about you," Kirilin finally said. "All through my training, my work, I thought about the human boy who was kind when I was alone. I wondered what happened to you." "I joined the military because of you," Daniel admitted. "I wanted to go to space. I wanted to see the things you showed me. And when the war started, when I heard the Valerians needed help, I had to come. You could have died. You nearly did die, many times. It was worth it," Daniel said simply. "Your people were kind to Earth when we were new. You were kind to me when I was just a kid. That matters." Kirilin touched the shell bracelet. "I wore this every day. Some people thought it was strange. A princess wearing a child's toy. But it reminded me that people can see past differences. That friendship is possible." "I kept the photo," Daniel said. "Before every battle, I would look at it. I would remember that there was good in the universe worth protecting." They talked for hours. About the years between, the different paths they had walked, the people they had become. Daniel told her about joining the military, about learning tactics and strategy, about the weight of command. Kirilin told him about diplomatic training, about refugee work, about trying to hold hope together when the war seemed lost. As the twin sun set, painting the sky in colors Earth never had. They sat together. The boy and girl from the beach were gone, replaced by a soldier and a diplomat, but the connection that had formed 20 years ago was still there, changed but not broken. "What happens now?" Kirillin asked. "I do not know," Daniel said honestly. "I am just a captain. You are a princess. The universe does not usually let people like us write our own stories. Then we make them let us," Kirillin said with determination. "We just saved a civilization together. Surely we can figure this out." Daniel smiled. A real smile. The first she had seen. It transformed his weary face, making him look young again. "When you put it that way, how can I argue?" They sat together as the stars came out, the same stars they had looked at as children, and they knew that whatever came next, they would face it together. The news spread across the galaxy within days. The hero who had saved the Valerian Empire was the same human who had befriended the princess as a child. The story captured imaginations everywhere. Two children from different worlds, separated by war and time, brought back together by courage and fate. But not everyone was happy about it. Daniel sat in a diplomatic meeting room, facing a panel of Earth military officials on a video screen. Admiral Gregory Hayes, commander of Earth's defense forces, looked stern. "Captain Carter, you have been offered a position as permanent military liaison to the Valerian Empire. This is highly irregular. You are one of our best tactical officers. Earth needs you." "With respect, sir, Earth needs allies more than it needs one captain," Daniel said. "The galaxy is vast. We cannot face it alone. Building strong ties with the Valerians serves Earth's interests. And your personal relationship with Princess Kirillin has nothing to do with this?" another admiral asked pointedly. "My relationship with the princess began when we were children, and has remained one of friendship and mutual respect," Daniel said carefully. "But yes, sir, it matters. Personal connections build trust. Trust builds alliances. Alliances keep our people safe." The admirals debated among themselves. Finally, Hayes spoke. "The position is yours, Captain. But understand, you represent Earth now. Everything you do reflects on our world." "I understand, sir." Meanwhile, Kirillin faced her own challenges. She stood before the Valarian Council, a group of older politicians who viewed change with suspicion. "Princess, your association with this human is causing controversy," Council Leader Marith said. "Some say you are too close to him, that you are blinded by childhood sentiment. I am close to Captain Carter because he earned that closeness by saving millions of our people," Kirillin said firmly. "He risked his life repeatedly for Valerians he had never met. If that is not worthy of respect and friendship, then what is? But a human," another council member said. "They are so different from us. So violent. We saw how they fight." "You saw how they protect," Kirillin corrected. "Yes, they are warriors, but they are also capable of great compassion. They came when no one else would. They bled for us. We should honor that, not question it." Ambassador Thelvar, sitting in the council chamber, spoke up. "I have known Captain Carter since he was a boy. I saw him choose my daughter's safety over his own secrecy. I have seen him choose others' lives over military victory. The council questions his character, but I do not. I question ours, if we turn away those who have proven themselves friends." The debate continued for hours, but eventually, Kirillin was permitted to continue working with the human delegation. The council was not happy, but they could not deny the results. Earth and Valara were building something new, and many people on both sides wanted it to succeed. In the weeks that followed, Daniel and Kirillin worked together on something they both believed in. They proposed an exchange program, bringing together young humans and Valarians to learn about each other's cultures. "If we had not met as children," Daniel explained to the Joint Earth-Valarian Committee, "this friendship would not exist. The alliance might not exist. The war might have ended differently. We cannot rely on chance anymore. We need to deliberately build bridges between our peoples. Children are our future," Kirillin added. If we teach them to see past differences early, they will build a better galaxy than we have. The proposal faced resistance. On Earth, some people feared exposing human children to aliens. On Valara, traditionalists worried about cultural contamination. Both sides had parents who did not want their children far from home. But Daniel and Kiralyn were persistent. They shared their own story, not as heroes but as people who had been changed by knowing someone different. They talked about what they had learned from each other, how it had shaped their lives. Slowly, support grew. The Emperor of Valara personally endorsed the program. The President of Earth did the same. Resources were allocated. A facility was built on a neutral space station, designed to accommodate both species comfortably. The first group was small. 20 human children and 20 Valerian children, ages 8 to 12. Selected from volunteers, they would spend 6 months together, learning each other's languages, cultures, and ways of thinking. Daniel and Kiralyn went to meet the first group as they arrived at the station. The human children looked nervous and excited, clutching bags and staring at everything with wide eyes. The Valerian children were more reserved but equally curious. One human girl, maybe 9 years old, approached Kiralyn shyly. "Are you really a princess?" Kiralyn knelt down to the girl's level. "I am. But that just means I have responsibilities. It does not make me special. You know what makes someone special? Being brave enough to make new friends." A Valerian boy looked at Daniel with golden eyes. "You are the soldier who fought the Kreeth?" "I am," Daniel said. "But I am also just a person who cares about protecting others. Just like you can be." The children were paired up, one human with one Valerian. They were nervous at first, uncertain how to act. But children are resilient. Within days, they were playing together, teaching each other games, laughing at misunderstandings, and finding common ground. Daniel and Kiralyn watched it happen with quiet satisfaction. They saw a human boy teaching a Valerian girl how to play catch. They saw a Valerian boy showing a human girl how to read star charts. They saw friendships forming, real and unforced. "It is working," Kiralyn said, standing beside Daniel in the observation area. "It is," Daniel agreed. "They do not see aliens. They just see other kids. Like we did. Like we did." 3 months into the program, Daniel and Kiralyn returned to Earth together. It was Kiralyn's first time on the planet since childhood. Daniel took her to the same beach where they had met 20 years ago. The ocean was unchanged. Waves still crashed against the rocks. Seabirds still cried overhead. But everything else was different. They were different. "I used to sit here and wonder what happened to you," Daniel said, standing where they had once skipped stones. "I thought maybe I had dreamed you." "Well, one with face disalfim. I thought maybe I had dreamed you." "I thought maybe I had dreamed you too," Kiralyn said. She picked up a shell from the sand, smooth and worn. "This beach gave us something precious. It gave us the ability to see past what we were supposed to see." "What do you mean?" "You were supposed to see an alien. Something strange and other. I was supposed to see a primitive. Someone less than me. But we just saw each other. Two lonely children who needed a friend." Daniel took her hand, the gesture natural now. "And now we are two adults, trying to make sure other children get that same chance. Do you think it will work? Long term?" "I think we have to try," Daniel said. "The galaxy is too big and too dangerous for species to stay isolated. We need each other. We proved that in the war." "Earth proved it," Kiralyn corrected. "Your people came when no one else would." "Because your people were kind when we were new," Daniel said. "See? It works. One generation's kindness becomes the next generation's alliance." They walked along the beach as the sun set, just like they had done as children. But now they talked about the future instead of games. They talked about expanding the exchange program, about joint research initiatives, about building something lasting. "The council wants me to take a greater role in government," Kiralyn said. "They are preparing me to potentially lead the diplomatic corps. Will you do it? If I can use the position to keep building what we started." "Yes. Earth wants me to establish a permanent embassy here on Valara, Daniel said. They are promoting me to Admiral. Kirillin smiled. Admiral Carter. It suits you. I am still just Daniel, he said. The same kid who made you a terrible bracelet. Quote, Kirillin touched the bracelet on her wrist, still there after all these years. It was not terrible. It was perfect. As full darkness fell, they sat on the rocks where they had first met. Above them, stars filled the sky. Earth's stars and Valara's stars. All the same from this distance. The galaxy seemed smaller somehow, less impossible. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we had never met? Kirillin asked. Sometimes. Daniel admitted. I think the war might have ended differently. I might have been just another officer. You might have been just another diplomat, and those children back on the station might never have had their chance. One meeting changed everything. One friendship changed everything, Daniel corrected. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the waves. On a space station far above, human and Valarian children were learning to be friends. In government buildings across two worlds, officials were planning deeper cooperation. In the darkness between stars, the old fear and suspicion were slowly being replaced by something better. It would not be easy. There would be setbacks and resistance. Not everyone wanted change. But Daniel and Kirillin had proven something important. They had proven that bonds formed in kindness could survive time, distance, and war. They had proven that seeing each other as people first, before species or status, could change the course of history. The boy who had played on this beach was now an admiral. The girl who had been fascinated by Earth's ocean was now a diplomatic leader, but inside, they were still those children who had chosen friendship over fear. And that choice, made so long ago, was rippling outward across the galaxy. Thank you, Kirillin said quietly. For what? For being kind to a lonely alien girl 20 years ago. For not forgetting. For fighting for my people. For all of it. Daniel squeezed her hand gently. Thank you for being brave enough to approach a strange human boy. For keeping the bracelet. For believing we could build something good from what we started. Above them, a ship passed overhead, heading for the stars. It carried the second group of exchange children, more humans and Valarians chosen to learn from each other. The program was growing. The future was being built, one friendship at a time. And it all started here, on a beach, with two children who saw past what they were supposed to see and just saw each other. The waves kept rolling in, constant and eternal, witnesses to the beginning of something that would change the galaxy forever.